get the attack in the doubles and you will win the match. Is it really that simple? Well, probably not, but I will try to walk you through a lot of different examples in this tactical lesson about how you can get the lift, how you can get the attack in the doubles. Nowadays, when you watch the players play in the television, or the professional players, usually the pair who is in the attack the most in the match, they will win it in the end. Back in the days, it could maybe be a little bit different, that the very solid defense could win matches. In different levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, maybe Euro level, sub-elite level, there can be different outcomes on if it's the best way to have a solid defense or to get the attack at all times. Me, myself, I always like to have the attack, have the initiative. Even though it was a training match or I was a kid, I loved to attack and to do winner shots. And that is what I want to walk you through in this lesson. I've put up some different scenarios here on the board where I will walk you through the best possible way to get out of different positions to get the attack. What should we do in different positions? That is what I will walk you through in this lesson. So how do we get all these attacks, all these lifts? It's tricky, and it's usually the fight on court that's going on, that we want the lift, we want the attack. If we get the attack, we can hit smashes, we can hit winners. But it's very, very tricky, especially if you are very tightened up, if you are very powerful and you want to play hard all the times. And then it's very tricky for you to get the very big solid lift to the baseline. So there are so many things going on, and let me walk you through some of the different examples I put on here on the board. So let's move on to the next video, where I'll take you through the first example. In this video, I will talk about all the things going on in the service situation. And the first one I want to mention goes for all four players. When we're doing all the serves, the returns, the third shot, we need to be extremely ready in our legs, in our mindset, in our racket, in the arm. Everything really needs to be sharpened, because if you just go up to do the serve or to do the return with a loose attitude, you won't be able to move explosive to the next one, to put pressure on your opponents and to get the attack. You will probably end up being in the defense. So all four players really need to be sharp, really need to focus on this. Take a lot of time between the rallies. Think about what you want to do, maybe where you want to do the return or the serve. Have some agreements with your partner. Really put a lot of focus on this. The first, the second, and the third shot is really, really important. The next thing in the service situation is when you're doing the flick serves. This person down here does the flick serve. What's really important down here is that don't go all the way back being afraid of the hard smash coming. Don't move all the way back here. This is not a good position to be in when you have done the flick serve. Really try to be brave, to have good confidence about your flick serve, but also about what you want to do after the flick serve. So stay a little bit in front to put pressure on the return coming. And of course, if it's possible for you to block it to the next one, well, you're in a very good position to get the lift. If you do the flat all the time, you probably won't get the lift. So stay in front when you're doing the flick serve, and if you can, block it to the net. The next thing I want to focus on is in my mind, maybe the most important thing, especially one of these things that I use the most when I play, especially men's doubles. And that is the simple but very precise return close to the net, to the edge of the net. Really just train that return. Every time you go in a training hall, use 5-10 minutes if you want to be sharp at this return. There are so many easy points to be won if you do this very sharp return in the middle, or maybe just out in the side. It's not that easy to do it precise with maybe a small spin and very close to the net, but really try to focus on being the best in the world to this return. Because it's so tricky for the opponents down here to do anything that would put you in a very bad position. So the best outcome would of course be that your return over here is very precise, that he needs to do the lift to your partner, and you will be in the attack. So focus a lot on that. the short, sharp, very precise return close to the net. Another return I would really recommend you to train a lot on is the return to the dead zone. And not only just to the dead zone, but to the dead zone in a very defense position. So the person down here comes to serve, me up here does the return to the dead zone, very, very close to the floor. That would leave this person in a very, very pressured situation. And in most cases, he would try to go for the lift down here, the lift all the way to the back, but it will put us in an attacking formation, and that is what we focus on here. So once again, really try to focus on your returns to the dead zones, but not in a neutral position. Then it will be more easy for him to put you under pressure, but really try to focus on getting them low, very close to the ground, so you can get the lift from the opponents. And the last tip in this service situation is that on the third shot, really try to put pressure on the opponents, move forward on the court. So when my serve come here, don't just stand in this position and wait to see what will happen. Really focusing on, okay, what should we do in this position? How can we attack the return coming? That would maybe be that my partner goes to the net, the person down here, in this case me, I also move a little bit forward. So if the return comes to the middle or to the net, we are ready. We are ready to block it. We are ready to put pressure on the dead zones to get the lift. Of course, this area down here will be a little bit open. So of course, also be ready for that. But in most cases, especially on a higher level, the returns will come to the net and to the middle. So really try to be ready for all the third shots in the rally. In this video, I will touch upon a very common thing to talk about in the doubles. And it's a very easy thing to talk about, but it's very tricky to do on court. And that is to keep the net at all times. But how do we do that? It's not that easy just to keep the net, because we also have some opponents on the other side who will probably maybe have the same tactical plan over there. So I've put up some different scenarios on where can we keep the net, in which situation is it a good idea to keep playing the net instead of doing the lift. That is what we will talk about in this video. So the first situation is, once again, like in the other video, is about the service situation. So keeping the net in the service situation, what is that? That is of course a low serve. So if you do a flick serve, you will be in the defense, or maybe you have a chance of getting in the defense. So focus on doing a very precise low serve. When you do the return, like we said before, focusing on putting pressure on the net, doing a short return. And on the next one, the third shot, instead of just going defensive up to that, after the serve, the return comes. So when the return comes to the net, try just to keep the net again. Instead of trying something crazy, doing the lift, just try to put it back. See, challenge this guy again. Of course, if it's a very good return, we will be forced to do the lift. But in many, many cases, it is possible with a little bit of a spin towards the shuttle. It is possible to keep the net once again, or at least maybe in this position just behind the returner. So that is in the service situation, the low serve, the short return, but also the third, maybe fourth shot. Try to put pressure back on the net instead of just doing the lift. That will leave you in maybe some cases a very good option on getting the lift, but it can also mean that you will do a mistake. If you do mistakes on this, you have to practice more on this. It's really important if you want to get the attack to play back to the net. Just be creative on these small things. Next one up here on the board, as you can see, we are now side by side. The two pairs are side by side. They are playing the flat game. And it's very easy actually, because the first pair who does the block, the short one to the net, they will probably get a lift to the baseline. So if you are very tightened, you have a very tightened arm, you will probably do the flat game back. Just a flat, crazy all the time. But if you stay calm, if you block to the net, let's say he does the flat one over here, he blocks to the net, You run up here, partner down here, leaves this guy in a very, very bad position. If you play it very, very sharp to the net, he will be forced to do the lift. But as I said before, he can also be creative to try to play back. So you need to be ready, because if this guy is very smart, he can of course try different tricks out to see if he can keep the net. So it's a battle going on about who will be the first one to do the most precise shot to the net and then eventually get the lift. So in the flat game, be the first pair to do the block. The next one is where we focus on the dead zone. The dead zone to dead zone maybe, or the dead zone to the net, or the dead zone to the cross net. The dead zone is a very tricky place to do all your shots. It's a place where many people like to do the flat return, especially in the doubles, try to put pressure on these areas. But once again, if we want to keep the net, we should be focusing on doing precise shots to the net or to the opponent's dead zone. This was one of my biggest goals when I played the mixed doubles. That were my practice in this area at the middle of the court, the dead zones. It was to be creative at all times. Even though if I'm a little bit defensive, I try to play a very sharp shot to the net, to the dead zone, maybe cross to the net again, instead of just lifting where when I think, okay, I need to lift, I'm a little bit defense position, I just do the lift. Then we will be in the defense a lot of times when we play these matches. So when you add the dead zone, the middle of the court, try to be creative if it's possible for you to play the net or back to the dead zone to the opponents. The last example here where we need to keep the net, that is where we have these lift to the baseline in a, you can say, out of reach attacking position. So the yellow player up here, he can't do the full power attack. He can maybe do a flat smash, or he can do the clear down here, or the shot just moving away, very defensive. But try to keep the net again. Maybe jump out to the shuttle, keep the net, try to do these very sharp drop shots instead of doing a crazy flat smash or to play it down to the opponent's baseline. So in these situations where you are in a very bad position, you're maybe a little bit out of balance, try to keep the net. Make your partner, in this case, let your partner go up here, attack the net to get you a new lift. Okay, so wait for the right chance in this situation. So keep the net from out of balance position when you do the attack.